All right, welcome in here. We're talking to Evan Lazar. We're going to talk about the tight ends, specifically the rookie tight ends, who are MIA and have been pretty much all season long. Dalton Keene has either been injured or a healthy scratch, not able to see the field at all. Devin Asiasi has played, but when he does, the Patriots will not throw him the ball. He had 0 targets on Sunday against the Denver Broncos at a time when the Patriots were really looking for anybody to get open. So, Evan, you've been looking at the film here. What's going on here with Asiasi?
Well, I think a lot of what's going on with Asiasi is that I haven't really seen them try to get the ball to him down the field much. And what ends up happening is he's releasing into the right flat a lot of the time as sort of a check down or a fifth read in the progression type of thing. And Cam just simply isn't getting there in his progression, whether it's because of pressure or processing speed or whatever the case may be. He's looking 1, 2, and he's not getting to 5, or he's not getting to that check down as consistently as he was at times in the beginning of the season. So that's what I see with Asiasi. The other thing that I'm sort of monitoring, and I'm waiting for a larger sample size because I don't think Cam's attempted enough throws this year to quite call it a problem, but he doesn't want to throw right. For whatever reason, he doesn't want to throw to the right sideline. And 9 times out of 10, that's where Asiasi is releasing into that right flat. And he doesn't want to go there. Only 12% of his throws this year are to the right sideline. He attempted 2 throws to the right sideline against Denver. One was picked off, and one was the errant pass to N'Keal Harry to end the game. So both not really great throws. So something either physical or mental is going on with Cam, I think, that he doesn't want to throw to that side of the field. And this is a trend that started in Carolina, actually, in 2018, 2019, where he was really struggling to throw the ball to that side of the field. A lot of people chalked it up to maybe the foot, maybe the shoulder back then. He's seemingly healthy now, so I really don't know what's going on, but he doesn't like throwing it to the right sideline, and the Patriots at this point are kind of not expecting him to throw it that direction and are scheming it up so he can throw between the numbers or to the left.
Well, I mean, not to make this entirely centric, a Cam Newton conversation entirely, but it is curious. I mean, you mentioned some mechanical issues you saw with his throwing last week, but out of curiosity, I mean, you're not getting 0 targets out of Harry. Where was he lined up mostly last week? And was he on Cam's right side? And maybe that explains the reasons that he was barely targeted, in this game.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's another kind of point that I hadn't really taken that next step. I've been down this right side rabbit hole all week, trying to think of, I asked our friend Jess Didi, Dr. Jess, is there something physical, medically that could explain why he doesn't want to throw it to the right side? Right. And she went back and watched the game and she said, nothing that I can see, just his mechanics being totally out of whack, but that doesn't necessarily play into decision making, I wouldn't say. So I don't know what it is, but he doesn't want to throw to the right side. The Patriots know it. I'm assuming the opponents know it at this point. So when you're one-dimensional like that and you can only throw it to two zones, either between the numbers and to the left, that does give the defense an advantage. So I'm interested to see if that's just a trend, if it's an anomaly, or if it's something that is a larger sample will represent and say, hey, this is statistically a trend of Cam Newton's that we need to be concerned about.
All right, now back to the tight ends. I was on Greg Bedard's Patriots podcast with Greg from Boston Sports Journal, and he was talking about the tight ends as well, and said, speaking to some people around the building, that there's a feeling that these guys are really struggling. One of the reasons you're not seeing targets from Asiasi and the Keen's not able to see the field is Asiasi they're both struggling with drops in practice, and right now there are major trust issues. So maybe this is why this would make sense. You've talked about Asiasi's leaked out into the flat a few times, but you're not seeing him run it up the chute, up the seam at all. And that would make sense. If you're afraid to throw the ball, you don't want to throw it over the middle of the field where things can get tipped. He sticks a mid up there, it clanks off of it with somebody waiting. So maybe that's part of the issue here. And it's a matter of these guys just getting into a better rhythm and sync. And part of that could be just not knowing exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're more concerned with that and less on the ball. And all of it can factor in for a rookie that has to think about and learn a lot of things. But might that help explain why they haven't tried that even once so far?
That's the best explanation I've heard so far, and it doesn't surprise me at all that Greg is hearing that, because that's really the only explanation that you can think of, right? Realistically, to make this make sense, that they aren't targeting a guy in Asiasi who, coming into the season, from his college tape look like somebody that could get up the seam, that could get over the middle of the field, that could be somebody that could vertically stretch the defense between the numbers. They haven't done any of that with him. They haven't even used him as a decoy in that sort of way, really. And then obviously he's not getting thrown to as a check down option or into the flat, which is disappointing because he is somebody that's underrated after the catch, I think, with the ball in his hands. And when he's in that flat and he's got nobody within 10 yards of him and only one defender with him on that side of the field, you make one guy miss and you don't know. That could be a 40-yard play all of a sudden. So it's definitely disappointing, but I think that makes the most sense out of anything I've heard so far, that maybe there are some things going on behind closed doors at practice that are kind of forcing them away from the tight ends.
Exactly. I mean, you look at everything that's possible, and when you eliminate, you eliminate everything, that's really all that you're left with. Is there has to be something they're worried about to even attempt this once. So let's switch over to Keene. Again, this is another kind of head scratcher. And again, this is a person who's kind of a man without, without a country here. He's not, it's a strange position and one that, it's not, he's obviously not a traditional tight end, of an H-back sort of move. But again, they're trying to find some sort of offense and some sort of weapons and create some mismatches. It would seem that he's the type of person that could create that, coming out of the backfield, running some routes, getting some linebackers on him, using a little bit of his speed there. And it's just strange that, again, it's something that they're not using as of yet. And any thoughts as to why that is? And again, we could be having similar trust issues here. And Greg did lump Keene in with Asiasi as someone who might be having some difficulties in practice.
I think this is totally about practice and the fact that Dalton Keene has really been out of practice from the start of the season. And then because of the coronavirus, has not practiced much over the last couple of weeks. But the area of the offense that I think that Keene can help the most is the running game, actually, not the passing game. I'm not really expecting anything out of Keene as a rookie at his pass catching ability, because he really didn't do it much at Virginia Tech, and now he's in a completely different offense with the Patriots. So expecting any sort of passing production or receiving production, I should say, is lofty. Where I think they can really, really use him, and honestly, this could unlock their entire running game, is if they can use Dalton Keene as sort of an escort, as a lead blocker for Cam Newton. So the motion that the Baltimore Ravens use all the time with their tight ends and their fullbacks is called escort motion, which basically is just giving the outside run on a read option play a lead blocker, as well as the inside run giving it a lead blocker. So when these teams crash down on the edge, now all of a sudden you have Dalton Keene coming across the formation to smash that edge out and kick that guy out. And now all of a sudden the edge is open again for either the running back or Cam Newton to take. Right now what teams are doing is they're crashing down on that edge. They're pulling the linebacker behind them in a scrape exchange, and there's nobody there to block the linebacker off the edge. And they're averaging about 2.1 yards per carry off read option plays since week one as a result. So I am frustrated with Josh McDaniels, and maybe it's because of the lack of practice. Right. That they have not installed escort motion, arc blocks, Baltimore type stuff into this zone read running game, into this gap read running game, really is what I should call it. Because without motion, without that misdirection, without those blockers coming across the formation, it's a stagnant package. It really isn't that difficult to defend. And that's what they need to do more of. And Dalton Keene is the perfect skill set for that type of role. That's why they drafted him. Yeah. I honestly think that's why they drafted him.
And it's amazing that you won't add some wrinkles like that when you're so desperate for offense last week that you ran 2 gadget plays and have Julian Edelman throwing the ball. So again, trying to generate something on offense any way you can, have to use all of the weapons at your disposal. So again, for the Patriots' sake, you hope that they figure out, they get their practice time, these tight ends get up to speed, and maybe it's a second half of the year sort of thing where you do start to see some contribution. But
I almost think that they might be hiding it.
Yeah.
I think they're
can't hide much longer at 2 and 3.
Right. But I think hiding it's the wrong word. I guess maybe more like they're not ready to use
when it's ready.
Yeah. Right. It's not been drilled enough in practice. The techniques haven't been figured out. It's a new thing for the Patriots offense. None of these guys that are in the coaching staff or guys like a Jakob Johnson or a Ryan Izzo, they've never done this before, right? They never motioned like that across the formation and made those types of blocks. But I'm telling you right now, if they install that type of motion and those types of misdirection blocks that like a team like Baltimore has in there, or you're going to see it at times with San Francisco on Sunday, it will unlock their entire read option running game with Cam again, and it will look like week one. And now it's happened because Miami was so woefully unprepared for those types of plays in week one. Teams are now preparing to stop Cam Newton as a runner, and it's not working like it was in week one. So install those escort motions, install those arc blocks, and this rushing attack is going to run for 250. I guarantee it.
If you're not ready to fully unveil it, I'm sure fans would be happy for a soft opening here, just to get a little glimpse of what may be to come. So again, that's going to wrap it up here. Much more on the Patriots throughout the weekend. As always, here you can watch it on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe, Patriots Press Pass, and follow Evan Lazar on Twitter and all of his written work at clnsmedia.com.